Good afternoon, grinders. This is your MLB SimLabs analysis for Friday, August 15th. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderHD, BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter, hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here and hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. We got 5 p.m. Eastern for Grinders Live today, followed by Crunch Time with Kevin Roth. Let's take a look at that weather report today. I don't think there's anything really to be worried about. He has some games listed like the Detroit-Minnesota game and Arizona-Colorado, but it's green-yellow. You never know. Things could change. Detroit's going to matter a little bit. Colorado, obviously, but Colorado, there's always some like scattered something around. They almost always play through it. So yeah, he's not ruling out delays, but he's not expecting any. But you definitely tune into Crunch Time later today for the radar updates with Kevin Roth, because today we got a 12-game slate. A whole bunch of pitchers to play today. One that stands out more than everyone else, and one main offense today with almost a 7 implied team total. That's the Diamondbacks in Colorado. But there may be some options under the radar. That pitcher that I was talking about is Framber Valdez, 10.5K against the Orioles. Our fantasy point projection here from a mean perspective is 2.5 points clear of every other pitcher. Number 2 on the board is Jacob deGrom at 10.3K against Toronto. And there is, even though Valdez is only 200 more, he's actually projected for 2.5 points higher than Jacob deGrom. Valdez has the highest strikeout prop on the board today at 6.5. Doesn't mean he can't play Jacob deGrom. We have their optimal rates fairly close to one another. Valdez, we have is close to 20% chance of being optimal. deGrom is like 17.5% chance. And then there's a whole load of pitchers that are between like 9 and 17%, 9 and 16%. Some of them are cheap. Some of them are a little bit more expensive. We got like Noah Cameron. And they also all project between like somewhere between 13 and 15 fantasy points. You got Noah Cameron, 9.3K against the White Sox. You got Lucas Giolito, 8.5K against the Marlins. Sean Manaea at 7.9K against the Mariners. Charlie Morton, 8.2K against Minnesota. Luis Gil, 7.5K against the Cardinals. You got Kikuchi, 8.8K against the A's. Brandon, then we get some like cheap pitchers. We got Brandon Pfaadt, 7K against the Rockies. Even though the Rockies have 5, like there are cheap pitchers that are up against teams that have like fairly high team totals, but they're really cheap. Pfaadt being one of them at 7K. They also have Joe Boyle against San Francisco. Joe Boyle, 5,400. We also have Jack Perkins, 5,900 against the Angels. And the Angels have, they're playing in Sacramento, so that team total is always going to be high. The problem with the Perkins and Boyle is that most likely they don't pitch more than 90 pitches. But the striker props aren't that bad for the price. You're paying sub 6K for these pitchers. And I'm going to assume that SimLabs is gonna like these combinations a little bit more. Like pay up for one pitcher, pay down for another pitcher, and then you're able to play like Diamondbacks one-offs. You're playing Dodgers one-offs. You don't necessarily have to punt in 2 or 3 spots with like $2,500 hitters in your lineup. So that's what I'm going to assume, that you played something like Valdez, Boyle, Valdez Pfaadt, Valdez Perkins, deGrom Perkins. And then obviously you can throw in some of these guys, like I mentioned before, Cameron, Giolito, Manaea, Morton, Gill, Kikuchi. Like they're around. All these guys are going to be like 10%, 10 to 15% owned. It's going to be really spread out. It should be Valdez clearly above everyone else as far as ownership. And then everything else is going to be kind of spread out. We can see here on SimLabs on the latest update that Brandon Pfaadt underowned. Joe Boyle a little bit underowned. It says Jacob deGrom is underowned. Really, From an optimal perspective, like Valdez 19.24 optimal rate, DeGrom 17.56 optimal rate, even though it's a 2.5 point projection difference. I mean, really, our projections say that there shouldn't be a Valdez shouldn't be 2.5 times more owned than Jacob DeGrom. Now, if you think that that's different, if they're going to be closer owned, then I've been much more likely to play Valdez, because we have Valdez as over-owned. We have Minaya as over-owned. We have like Cameron and Morton. They're close enough, right? Say for like a Jack Perkins 1.32. The difference between ownership and optimal rate is not that dramatic. One or two here and there isn't that big of a deal. From an offensive perspective, we go to the top stacks tool, and it's overwhelmingly Arizona. 22.49% chance of being optimal on a 12-game slate. Remember, the 24 teams on the slate. You go from 22% chance of being optimal to the next bunch of teams are like 6 to 8% chance. We got like the Yankees. We got the Astros. We got the Rockies even, right? And then we also got the Rangers. The Rangers, it's because they're cheap, right? The Rangers don't even have, like, the Rangers have a 3.75 implied team total, but, they have, like, Jock Peterson at 2,300 sitting in the middle of the lineup, right? Corey Seager's probably should be over 5K. So, like the Rangers are not, like, dirt cheap, but Semion's 3,700, Langford's 4K, Josh Jung is 3,500. It's like not the best of spots, but they are pretty cheap. I mean, you could play the White Sox instead, but I mean, I'd rather play the Rangers in this spot. But with the 3.75 implied team total, I'm not exactly sure why their optimal rate is. I mean, it's not like it's in comparison to these other teams on the list, it's like 2 or 3 percentage points higher, but just 8%, number 2 on the list, seems pretty high compared to some other teams that like the Astros have a 4.55 implied team total. The Yankees have a 4.76 implied team total. The Rockies are at home, so they'll always have like a 5 team total, even though they're pretty horrible. Detroit has like a 5.5 implied team total, and they have a 5 team total. They have a 5.5% optimal rate. The Royals have a 5.12 implied team total. They have a 5% optimal rate. Even the Angels have a 5-point implied run total, 4.7% chance of being optimal. Feels like these teams are much more attractive than the Rangers, only because the Rangers are just cheaper. But some of these teams aren't that expensive. The Royals, the Astros, we take a look at some of these lineups. And we go down to, let's see, the Royals. Now Michael Garcia at 5K is a little rich, right? You could play Yastrzemski, you could pay up for Witt, especially if you're playing like a Joe Boyle, Jack Perkins, Brandon Pfaadt. You're playing one cheap pitcher. Like you should be able to afford this. You could play Adam Frazier, Jonathan India in the stack for the Royals. And then we take a look at the Astros, if I could find them. Astros. Where'd the Astros go? Astros. I mean, I guess. Yeah, the bottom of the lineup kind of sucks. But Carlos Correa, 4K. I mean, they're affordable. Jesus Sanchez, 4,200. Richard Walker's 4K. Diaz is 3,700. So, I mean, just like I said, if this you're probably not playing Valdez DeGrom lineups. I'm assuming SimLabs is going to say that that's probably not the way to go, but let's take a look. Small field, medium result range, 5-man stacks. Let's see, 150 lineups to use as research. Because remember, this tool gets updated multiple times throughout the day. You could use this as research for lineups throughout the course of the day. You could save lineups. You could import into Lineup HQ if you're a premium member. You could look through and go, who shows up more often in the higher SimLabs rated lineups? You could look here. We could go, look at Joe Boyle. He really likes the cheap pitching, right? Even Valdez, we're not getting even that much Valdez. Because really, from his ownership, if he's going to be 30% owned, but his optimal rate isn't all that different. Like Kikuchi, we have as a 15% optimal rate. Luis Gil, we have it at a 15% optimal rate. And they're much cheaper and much less owned. So, like, SimLabs prefers Kikuchi and Gill over, like, DeGrom and Valdez, given a choice, and a lot of Joe Boyle. A bit of Jack Perkins. Well, Joe Boyle primarily, because, I mean, you take a look, I think, from a ceiling perspective, Jack Perkins may have a better ceiling, but, I mean, he could give up a whole bunch of runs. The matchup in San Francisco is, I just think, a lot better for Joe Boyle at 5,400. But remember, you don't necessarily have to get 25 points from Joe Boyle at 5,400. You get 14 points. I think you're fine. So we see here, we got some Arizona, we got some Colorado. Let's take a look at the stacks. 40% Diamondbacks, then the Rockies, then the Twins, then the Rangers. And then we still get plenty of Rangers, Royals, Tigers, Yankees, all the teams that I mentioned. A little less of the Astros, but overwhelmingly the Diamondbacks. Right? We take a look at the Diamondbacks starting lineup. Go to this Colorado game. Right? I mean, it's going to be expensive. But the thing is that, you know, if you're playing Joe Boyle at 5,400, you should be able to fit these guys in. I mean, look at these projections. I mean, they're ridiculous. But, I mean, it's Kettle Marte is 6,400. Corbin Carroll, 6,600. Gurriel, 5,200. But then we get, like, Del Castillo at 4,200. Locklear, 39. Alec Thomas at 38. McCann at 43. Blaze Alexander at 4K. So you can make it work. Right, so let's take a look at what these Diamondback lineups look like. I'm going to go in. I'm going to run it. I'm going to run 20 just with Diamondback stacks, just to see how do you put these lineups together. So I'm assuming it's going to be something where it's Kikuchi or Gill plus Boyle, and then you just pay up for everyone. Right, Perkins, Boyle. You can play two cheap pitchers. Gill, Boyle. Or take a look at this lineup. Gill, Boyle, McCann, Locklear, Marte, Perdomo, Carroll. I mean, you're paying up for half of these guys. Correa, one off. Laureano, one off at 4K. And a Jock Peterson, one off at 2,300. Done. This is absolutely playable. Right? You can look over here. Let's say it's a 5-3. Of course, Perkins, Boyle. You did two cheap pitchers. And you play three Tigers with this. Here's Kikuchi, Gill. You're not even paying that. I mean, obviously, you're not paying all the way down to Boyle or Perkins, but you're still playing pretty cheaply at pitcher. Kikuchi, Gill, Del Castillo, Locklear, Marte, Perdomo, Alec Thomas. So basically, you're not playing Gurriel or Carroll. Then you play Peterson, Grisham, and Ryan McMahon. Kind of punting in a third base spot. This is doable. I mean, all these lineups are rated pretty damn high. There's a DeGrom Boyle lineup. There's another Perkins Boyle lineup. It seems to not mind the Perkins Boyle combination. Kikuchi Perkins. Right? You're still punting and you're still playing a one-off Tatis. It's kind of a bottom of the order Diamondback stack, which isn't bad. But here's Corbin Carroll. Here's Kettle Marte with DeGrom and Boyle. Mason Wynn is a one-off. Jock Peterson is a one-off at 2,300. Rowdy Tellez, 2,700. Right, the Rangers are. I mean, it's going to fit in the range. I mean, our simulations are telling us that the Rangers are too cheap, even though they have a low implied team total. So we're probably going to get a bunch of Rangers in some of these lineups. There's another Perkins Boyle lineup. I guess playing two cheap pitchers today isn't unheard of. I guess the projection-wise, really the difference between Perkins and Boyle and like Morton, Gill, Minaya, and these guys is only like 1.5, 2, maybe 2 points in projection. But you're paying significantly cheaper for these guys. So maybe can you only pay, what is it, 11.3K total at pitcher today? Maybe. I mean, SimLabs seems to think so. But what happens if we wanted to play like how about if you did the opposite way? You could lock in Valdez and DeGrom. Do those lineups rate out well if you were going to do that? I'm assuming not. So if we paid up for two, we paid $20.8K for pitching today. Do we have any highly rated line? Well, I mean, we're going to have probably a couple, but what do they look like? I'm assuming they're Rangers lineups, right? If SimLabs is telling us the Rangers, okay, here we go. They're not even rated all that great. I mean, they're okay. Some of these are okay. Yankees, the Yankees stack. Valdez, DeGrom, and bottom of the order Yankees, right, with Austin Wells. And then you're still playing Peterson, Tellez for the Rangers. Tatis is a one-off. So you still this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's a Rockies lineup because obviously you could, you got a $2,800 player here. You're still playing Jock Peterson as a one-off, and Royce Lewis as a one-off, and Miguel Vargas as a one-off. So I mean, yeah, I guess there are 3K, 2K, 3K level players that you can play in these lineups. There's a twin stack with Ramon Urias and Abraham Toro. I mean, you could get away with this, but I mean, Sims are not finding this combination to be as appealing. There are some lineups that you can play that will be profitable like this. Seems like mainly Twins, Rangers, Rockies. You're playing some garbage team with them, right? Braves. Oh no. These are just generated lineups because they just had to make them. So there aren't that many combinations, really, of just paying up twice at pitcher. Vastly prefers the cheap pitchers today. As of right now. I mean, I don't think that much is going to change. Unless you think Perkins and Boyle are going to be way more owned than we have. We have Perkins currently projected to be 16.5% owned and Boyle about 13% owned. That goes up. Okay, then I could see pivoting a little bit. But I think it was only one of them available. Maybe one would eat all the ownership. Like if it was just Boyle or just Perkins, that person would be 30% owned. But with it all spread out, I just don't think any of these pitchers are going to be that owned. I think Valdez is going to be owned 30%-ish. DeGrom will be owned 15 to 18%, and then everything else will be like 10 to 12. So if there's a pitcher you like amongst that group, just feel free to lock them into SimLabs and just say, I just want to play a lineup with that pitcher and just find the way to build around him. Seems like Jock Peterson at 2,300 may end up being a popular. Is it going to be a popular one-off? I mean, SimLab says it doesn't matter. Even at 10% ownership at 2,300, that just play him. Because he clearly has the best projection for the price from a point per dollar perspective. But we could see lineups that don't have, like we could even do this. Like let's say instead of heuristically, I don't want to play Jock Peterson as a one-off in the lineup. So I exclude Jock Peterson. And let's say I do want to play Valdez in the lineup, not Jock Peterson. And let's just say, and I do want to play an Arizona stack. Can I make this combination? Where I'm playing Valdez, Arizona, not playing Peterson as a one-off at 2,300, and still be able to play Valdez. Let's see what this looks like. May end up being a bottom of the order. It may not have Perdomo, may not have Carroll, may not have Marte. I think Marte is probably the priority in Diamondback stacks. So the second baseman is probably weak. But here you go. You got Valdez, Boyle, Del Castillo, Locklear, Marte, Alexander, Alec Thomas. And you play Jose Iglesias as a one-off. Byron Buxton, Mickey Moniak. This is doable. Here's a 5-3 with the Padres. Locklear, Marte, Alexander, Gurriel, Thomas, and then Laureano Bogarts and Fermin was pretty much a punt at 2,300. Batting ninth against the Dodgers. So these lineups are doable, right? If we take a look at the projection difference between like these Valdez lineups and the Perkins Boyle cheapo pitcher combinations, they're not all that dramatically different. So maybe this is the day to pay down twice at pitching. You don't have to play DeGrom. You don't have to play Valdez. Because even if you just go down to Kikuchi, like the difference between Valdez and Kikuchi is 1,700, and you could use that to actually get, you're not punting in 3 spots in your batting order. Go down to Luis Gil at 7,500. That's $3K less than Valdez. Sean Manaea, I mean, it's still 2,600 less than Valdez. I don't think Valdez is necessary. I don't think DeGrom is necessary. Based on our optimal rates here, yeah, they're the highest optimal rate pitchers, but it's not even past 20% with 12 games. Perkins and Boyle are both sitting at about 15%, and they're like half the price. They're half off. It's very rare that heuristically I look to play 2 cheap pitcher lineups. But maybe today, like Arizona, the Diamondbacks implied team total and their optimal rate is almost so high that I almost prioritize the Diamondbacks over any of these pitchers. So maybe it's going to be a Perkins, Boyle, Diamondbacks lineup for me, and then try to get different in the one. Maybe I just suspect playing Jock Peterson as a one-off at 2,300 on a 12-game slate. He ends up being, we project him to be 10% owned, and he ends up being 22% owned for no reason. And you're sitting there with the one-off going, what? If he gets a 0, it just like knocks out so many other lineups. But he is very cheap at 2,300. You know what also is cheap? The Combo Light package here at RotoGrinders. You get full access to SimLabs for NBA, MLB, PGA, and NFL, which is coming back soon, right? You even NFL, you get it for all the showdown slates also. So it's not just the main Sunday classic slate. You get it, for Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. You get all of our research tools like Plate IQ, Court IQ, Gridiron IQ, Weather Edge, and our premium tools and content. Presents its value rankings, write-ups like Cheese's $1 Million Musings every weekday for baseball. You get all of that for one low price. Click on the link in the description for more information. If you don't do that, hit that thumbs up button. Very much appreciated. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here, and hit the notification bell to always know when we go live, which will be later today, 5 p.m. Eastern for Crunch Time, for Grinders Live, and then Crunch Time follows that. Shouldn't have any problem with the weather, but you never know. You can use SimLabs on your phone, right? That's what I do. I listen to Crunch Time, build lineups on my phone. Going to probably play maybe 2 or 3 lineups tonight. Small field contests. Look at SimLabs for iOS on my app. You get pretty much the same type of interface that you get here on desktop. Build plus EV lineups. Do that as much as possible, and most likely going to be profitable over the long term. But I'll see you next week for another MLB SimLabs analysis here on RotoGrinders.com.